The time has finally come for us to start with the dry sump conversion on my M42B21 Frankenstein build. What has arrived? This magnificent Peterson reservoir oil tank. Now I must actually check, I don't know how many liters this is. It looks like it's probably 8 to 10 liters. So we've got this, and the reason you go for a high quality oil tank, storage tank, is because that this serves a few functions. We're going to get into that a bit later. So also what has arrived is my multi-stage dry sump pump. So this is quite a beefy unit. It has it goes like that. It has the 3 scavenge sections. These 2 at the bottom, they come, these 2 on your right, they come from the sump, and this one scavenges from the oil tank and pumps basically to the engine. This one pumps back to the sump. So we've got some serious pumping power here. We also have the pulley for the crankshaft, because this is going to be attached to the crank, and that's going to use a tooth belt to drive the oil pump. We also have a high flow remote oil filter unit. So this came with this kit, which is great. I could have used my existing one, but I'm going to use this one because this has the AN12 lines already, so that's great. This strainer also came with the system. This is like a filter. I'm not going to use this because I actually am going to use strainers in the sump, so we're not going to worry about that. So that is that. So I'm going to show you quickly what is inside this and why it's so important to have such a high quality tank, and then I'm going to show you how the pump looks on the engine and where more or less it's going to go, and then we need to look at how are we going to mount this bad boy into the car, because it's quite a beefy unit, and yeah, obviously it's going to take up some space. So let's crank this thing open and see what's inside. So this is exactly how I got it. So it has a filler neck, a top plug, I guess, cap, top cap. These are just the mountings, but this is the clamp that kind of keeps it together. And the beautiful thing about this design is that it can open. So it's almost like a those clamps you use on the exhaust. I forget the name of them. In fact, it is exactly like those clamps. So this allows you to open it, and look at the construction of this thing. Absolutely stunning, beautiful unit. It has all these sieves and these baffles for basically to remove the aeration and the froth out of the oil, so that by the time the pump scavenges the oil out of the tank, it is as much as possible oil, solid oil, and not aerated oil, so you avoid sucking air. So this is a beautiful design, really nice, again to try and just reduce the aeration in the oil. There it's just a tank with the suction line going right to the bottom. So very, very well made. This is an American company, and the specific tank comes from the US, and it's just, yeah, exceptionally beautiful, exceptionally well made. So if we leave that there for a second, inside here you will see that the oil coming back into the tank feeds into the top of the tank, and it is fed in at an angle, and so it swirls around the oil reservoir, and that allows, as it goes through these baffles in the tank, it allows the air to separate from the oil, so you don't have this aerated oil. So this is an absolutely stunning piece. Like I say, very, very well made. And we're just going to put this bad boy back together, and let's get it to a place where we can mount it in the car. We need to clean it, obviously, but okay, that'll do for now. We just want to move these clamps around. It also came with these mounting clamps and bushes and all CNC. Very nice stuff. Very, very nice. If you want to see some more of this kind of content, please consider subscribing. Just click on the subscribe button, hit the bell, and you're good to go. Alright, so in terms of the M42 and the engine, I have taken this whole existing setup I had off, and this pump is pretty much going to sit over here. Now I'm going to remake this plate for the oil filter housing, or the original oil pump housing, and I'm going to still strip the guts, but it'll just have a feed line directly into the feed, and we're going to make a bracket for this pump to sit here or somewhere there. Now the other thing to consider is that the alternator still needs to fit, so the alternator I think will be mounted up here. So we're making a whole custom bracket for that. So we have to just kind of figure all of that out. But ultimately, this is going to sit like this, and then scavenge from the sump that we're going to make. This pulley, I'll machine this bolt down and machine a thread into it so that this sprocket can this pulley can fit onto the front here, and we can drive the oil pump with this on the front. So that's pretty much, it's straightforward. Just going to blank this all off, have an AN fitting in here. The feed will go through the filter, the oil cooler, and come and feed into here through a sensor, oil pressure, oil temp, and that's that. So pretty straightforward there. The only trick is we need to make a new bracket that's going to house this oil pump and the alternator in some way, and we have to also take into account the airbox. This dipstick won't be here anymore, so we might have to mount this slightly lower. All of that we're just going to have to figure out. Okay, so when it comes to the tank, it looks like this is pretty much the only option I have. So we are going to mount it right here, and perhaps a bit further back, something like that. Keep the heat away from the ECU, and we might relocate the ECU, but ultimately this is pretty much the only place I have to mount it. Can try get it tucked up inside, but then you can't access the oil and all of that. So that's where it is going to live. We might have the oil cooler coming back, but a lot of this kind of thing we're going to figure out. Obviously the scavenge and return lines, as well as the breather, will go out into the engine bay, and yeah, so that's how it is going to live. Now it's going to affect the weight distribution a bit, so we might relocate the battery as well, but all of that we'll have to just figure out. So that is its new home. So now we'll just have to make up a bracket that's going to kind of bolt to here and be all secure, so that this thing is nice and ready. But in the meantime, what I need to do is just give this thing a good clean, wrap it up, get it all ready, and make up a nice bracket for this. And then I need to get that engine with all the bits and the dry sump bits off to the fabricator so he can start fabricating. Alright guys, so that's going to be a wrap for this episode. We've got a few decisions we need to make on where I'm going to place the oil cooler, because I've got a couple of plans for an airbox system on this car, and we don't have a lot of space for like a direct feed. Yep, there's a couple of decisions I must make, but ultimately there's some cool stuff I'm going to do as well, more weight savings and that. But really I just need to get this car running, because I want to race it in Jan at the Passion for Speed Festival. So The big thing is now get the engine off with all that dry stuff, the pump and all that stuff to the fabricator, so he can do the sump and the bracket for the pump and the alternator and all that good stuff. So anyway, that's going to be a wrap. Thanks for watching. Ciao.